This episode is brought to you by Feedback Now, the world's best real-time feedback platform, and by the Experience Strategy Collaboratives. Welcome to the Experience Strategy Podcast with Joe Pine, author of The Experience Economy and all those other best-selling books you've read. Dave Norton, an experience futurist and founder of Stone Mantle, the experience strategy company, and me, Aranza Savas, an expert in coaching, motivation, and behavior change. Each week, we bring you a trending story from the news and share our hot takes. Today, we're talking about an article from the Wall Street Journal by Angel Ao Young, published on June 2nd, 2025. The title of the article is Silicon Valley's Psychedelic Obsession Has a New Accoutrement. Integration therapies. The article explores how psychedelic use has become mainstream in Silicon Valley's tech culture, spawning a new profession, integration therapists and coaches. The therapists themselves are licensed psychologists who are helping tech workers process their experiences with ayahuasca, psilocybin, and other psychedelics after they've used them. And so the piece is really talking about how tech companies are organizing unofficial psychedelic retreats as team building exercises, how some workers are using these substances to combat burnout and unlock creativity. And of course, the experiences don't always go as planned. And many tech workers are emerging from their trips having an existential crisis, questioning their careers or wanting to completely restructure their lives. And so it just looks at the growing acceptance of psychedelics in the Bay Area tech culture and examines both the therapeutic potential and unintended consequences of the trend, including the phenomenon of workers leaving the industry entirely after profound psychedelic experiences. So the way this works on the show, dear listener, is that Joe or Dave or I usually pick an article and send it to the others and say, hey, let's talk about this. So Dave suggested this one. And Dave, just so you know, does not drink, does not use the drugs, and or even the coffee. So Dave, what inspired you to send this article to us for the Experience Strategy Podcast?
Okay, so the plot gets thicker because it turns out that on the exact same day that I sent it to you, Joe had posted on Substack an article or a posting about this particular article. So
I was a little peeved off that you hadn't read my Substack yet, Dave, but that's okay. We'll get beyond that.
I hadn't seen it yet, but I read it afterwards. So
I forgot to read it. So
I totally, I read Integration Therapy and immediately thought of transformation and behavior change. So I was thinking about you guys and what you're focused on,
Thanks,
which I'm
Dave.
also focused on, but not in the same way. I don't know what that means. That's, from an intellectual standpoint, I'll just stop talking right now. But so to me, like I read the article and like I didn't know anything about ketamine. I mean, I started doing a little research and I'd heard Elon Musk
I
has.
thought ayahuasca was a South American donkey, but
Oh, Joe.
So we are
Joe, just so you know, just had another grandchild this week. And so he can say these things and just sound like grandfatherly.
right. They may be listening someday. You never know.
Anyways, I just thought it was a really interesting phenomenon. The first thing that ran through my head, honestly, Arancis, is this is one of the side effects of superpowers. People wanting, having to perform at very, very high levels over a long period of time in order to be successful are not only tapping into technology, but they're tapping into medication or oral technology, I don't know what you call it, to help you to help increase their performance at a much higher level, but there's all kinds of downside to that kind of a thing. And I wasn't even really thinking about the recreational side of this. Well, I guess we could talk about that as well. But to your point, I've never had alcohol, so or coffee, so I don't even know what we're talking about. So,
Yeah, I was thinking, when we suggest this, I was thinking, Dave, that I'm betting only one person of this triumvirate, has ever had psychedelics, and I knew it wasn't you.
So you is what you mean.
Yes, yes. So Francis, tell us. I'm just guessing here. I'm just guessing. I mean,
Anywho, my kids might listen too.
I was going to say, you have kids that can listen to it now.
So yeah, I do have firsthand knowledge of folks who are using it currently for therapeutic purposes, and actually, a woman I know is doing some pretty groundbreaking work right now for folks with PTSD specifically. So she has funded a psychedelic education program at the University of Pennsylvania, and they are actively training medical students in the use of psychedelics for treatment of depression, I think brain
Mhm.
injury, even, and PTSD very specifically. And it's something she came to with real passion and seeing others be positively impacted by it. And I think the work they're doing there has been widely lauded for integrating additional tools into these doctors' toolkits, which tend to be pretty slow to innovate. So the fact that they are able to get this into the education program is I think really exciting for folks.
Mhm.
And then I also know, I mean, there was a researcher we worked with at Weight Watchers who, when she left Weight Watchers, went back to her practice full time as a psychologist, entirely focused on integration therapies and taking people on guided trips and really giving them a supportive environment to experience and integrate. So yeah, all really interesting to me. But I really honestly hadn't thought about this directly as a transformational experience, but it certainly has all the hallmarks, especially when you're talking about it in this professional setting. And I think it does it you bring up AI when you talk about superpowers.
Mhm.
Inevitably, that's part of that conversation. And so what we're talking about there is, yeah, we really get good at things that we weren't capable of doing in the past, and it opens up new expectations for us. And so I think, like, even I'll ask you as a futurist, Dave, do you worry that we're going to get so bored and understimulated that we're going to like lead civilization off a cliff?
I mean, let's let's use Elon Musk as a case study here. I mean, he seems to be at the forefront of this type of thing, right? So, some pretty crazy stuff is going on. I had no, first of all, again, I might not be much of a futurist if I had no idea that this was even going on until I read this article. That doesn't say much for me, but I do think that there are, with every new technology, with every technological advance that has occurred, there are all kinds of societal side effects that occur. And
I
so
love
if
that phrase.
you honestly think that you should be able to perform at a superior level, or that your company, which is basically what they're saying here, is that certain startups are almost requiring these retreats where you go and you experience it because they need their employees to perform at that particular level. Well, That just sounds like a recipe to me for some big blowback that's going to affect individuals in very negative ways. And Joe, one of the things that when we were talking about this offline, you said, I purposely did not write about psychedelics in my book on transformations, which is coming out in December, by the way, folks.
Actually,
Because, and then you went full stop. You didn't say why. Why didn't you write about this
well,
particular phenomenon?
because I'm against psychedelics recreationally. Right, and
Hmm.
that's just, a moral view that says you should never lose your faculties, and it applies to a lot of things, including drinking. I mean, drinking is okay. Getting drunk is like no, because you're responsible for your actions, and you just made yourself irresponsible, and it applies that. Therapeutically, on the other hand, I have no problem with that, medicinally or therapeutically, if it works. What and so, but I've just, in writing the book, I've just met a lot of people that talk about it and want to do it. And there's, even when it's like talks about therapeutic, there is that like reaction we had at the beginning of, going behind the junior high school gym for a smoke. It's like, hey, we're getting away with something if we do this. And so there's sort of an undertone of what you hear. Um, and so I just said, let me just stay away from that. But there was one mention, and it was directly in context with this, and that is on integration. Right. So I talk about integration as, I mean, it's really one of the core things I discovered in the writing is the need for integration. In chapter 4 of the book, I talk about encapsulation, which is how you can take any experience and at least potentially make it transformative for somebody. And you encapsulate it in 3 steps. That before the experience, you have preparation that prepares them for what they're going to do, that primes them for the experience, that gets them thinking aspirationally about what might happen here and so forth. Then they have the experience, and then you immediately need to do reflection. And reflection is looking over that experience, highlighting things, thinking about how it affected you, and whether you want to take that impact that you got from the experience into your real life, I'll say, into your daily life, and transform as a result. But the transformation doesn't happen. People think that like you go to Burning Man and you had this transformative experience. Well, no, you in fact had a transporting experience that gave you, that took you out of yourself, got you, went to a different place, gave you awe and all of that, and it may be transformed in the sense that you do make immediate changes in your life. You do think differently. You do see differently. It's use one of your frameworks out of the collaborative, Dave. And Burning Man, in fact, encourages everybody, don't make any major decisions for at least 2 weeks after you come back. But you're not truly transformed unless it's sustained through time. It's just the nature of the beast. And that's integration. It's exactly what integration is, that it's sustained through time. It takes that reflection and it puts it into action, so that you integrate it into your life all the time, with some regress as well as progress that inevitably happens. And that's when you need a guide.
We know how much clutter there is in experience data and how hard it is to pinpoint the real issues. That's why we're so excited to introduce you to our strategic partner, Feedback Now, the world's best company for real-time feedback. You've heard us talk about contextual insights and understanding customer situations. Well, that's exactly what Feedback Now does. They process over 130 million customer opinions each year in over 50,000 unique locations around the world. Companies who employ Feedback Now see an average increase in satisfaction of 15% in just 6 weeks, my friends. Feedback Now is the choice for real-time sentiment data collection for some of the world's best airports, retailers, and hospital systems. Why? Because they don't just capture immediate customer sentiment. They help you see the patterns in your data. No amount of AI can compensate for not having real customers giving you real-time insights into your experience. That's what Feedback Now, with a little assistance from Stone Mantle, does. And friends, I am happy to announce that Feedback Now and Stone Mantle's Insights teams are giving away a free pilot program to one lucky listening company. All you have to do is go to their website, which we've listed in the show notes, share your idea for a real-time data project that you wish someone would help you with. The crack team at Stone Mantle and Feedback Now will review all of those entries for the one with the highest potential to produce the most interesting and profitable results and select one winner, which we'll announce right here on the show.
That's when it's very hard to make that change on your own, as we talked about in the HBR article, Dave. And so you often need a guide. So when I saw this at integration therapy, okay, there's a guide specifically for integration. And before I forget, I did mention there's a company called Othership. And I talked to the CEO and founder, Robbie Bent, based in Toronto with one or two locations now, I think it is, in New York. And they recognize they're a transporting experience. They recognize that there's potential transformation. And then I'd say they specialize in those who do ayahuasca or do some of these other drugs and recreationally, but don't know how to integrate it, right? Just as the article talked about, and not for Silicon Valley types, obviously in Toronto and New York, but for anybody that goes through that and need help. And part of you'd love this, Dave, part of the deal is you come there are no drugs, there is no alcohol, right? This is for serious, reflection and integration. And so they do a great job of that there.
Interesting.
Yeah, totally. It's fun for me to listen to you talk about the difference between transporting and transformative. And I recently started this program as a participant that I've known about for 25 years. I remember people doing it when I was in grad school. I've over the years heard, I'm sure, 100 people say the exact same phrase. And Joe, are you ready?
I'm ready. I know what it is.
It completely changed my life. You say the phrase, the name of the program, and everyone goes, it completely changed my life. Right. Without a single deviation. All right. So I'm like, okay. I just can't commit to it. And it's not like it sounds all that hard. I don't know. I just haven't ever gotten around to it. It was never a priority. So I finally set out to do it about 3.5 weeks ago, and now it's my whole personality.
Did it completely change your life?
I mean, maybe. I kind of think so. And I'm like not 100% sure it's not just brainwashing, because I've heard so many people say
you're not revealing the name on purpose, right? You've been avoiding.
I'm waiting. Yeah. And the process is so extraordinarily simple and yet active. And it is actually there's like a tiny, tiny subset of like the activities you do and the like thought exercises that I think are valuable. But the thing that really changes people's lives when you ask them about it is simply the act of writing morning pages. So the program is called The Artist Way, and it has two fundamental tenets. One is morning pages, so 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing first thing in the morning, and a weekly artist date, which is a solo excavation or adventure by yourself to solo by yourself. Thanks. Dave's probably not going to edit that out either. I actually had a very long artist date yesterday and had to take the 10 o'clock ferry home last night. So I was not in bed by 9:15 like usual. So you'll have to forgive me. So it's that's all it is 2 things. And the artist dates are fine. I think that's been lovely. It is these morning pages, which are, if you read the book, integration. It is self-guided integration with no agenda, no formula other than write for 3 pages first thing in the morning. And I've done it 6 or 7 days every week for 3.5 weeks now. And I keep describing it as like it clears the space, but it also makes sense of what's happening. And I haven't been at regular journal. I've never journaled for 3.5 weeks in my entire life until now. And I am, like I said, it is now my entire personality. I'm so sold on it. And I really hope that I will give myself the gift of being a daily journaler for the rest of my life. It has been that profound and powerful to actively and consistently integrate.
Just imagine how much more powerful it would be if you added some psychedelics to it.
I wonder. I wonder.
I'm
Somehow I
joking.
feel I know.
I'm
No, I
joking.
mean it's a good question, though.
Life is a rancid psychedelic, you know.
That's right. I am my own psychedelic.
Right.
I'm high on the endorphins from running.
Right.
If you think about it, Ranthus, that practice, which I love, and you're gonna have to send me a link on this so I can look at it, is encapsulation in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, it cleared the slate, which is preparation for the day ahead. Your stream of consciousness is reflection on what's happened before that leads your consciousness to be able to write in this way. And then that collection of writings over time will be affected by what you've done before, what happens during the day, the various artist days that happen every week. And so it ends up integrating everything into your life. So it's just a beautiful technique.
It really is. And I mean, like I said, the techniques and the other activation exercises are really smart and thoughtful and useful, but it's the simplest thing. And I wonder if these Silicon Valley leaders would get the same effect from simply journaling.
Journaling. Yeah, that would be really interesting. I mean, you know, my personal philosophy is anything that takes away agency from you is probably not useful
Exactly.
to you. And that's why I don't drink
Understand what I
alcohol,
said. Yeah.
right? But anything that enhances your agency, and something like journal writing, it actually enhances your agency. I mean, as we move into a transformation economy, these are the kinds of conversations that we have to have. I also think that it's important for companies, you know, we're talking very personally here, and some companies may be thinking to themselves, well, what does this have to do with what we're doing? But in our research at Stone Mantle, in the collaboratives, we've found that almost all of the companies that participate, their customers value their brands more if they encourage reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And you have far more permission to encourage reflection than you think you do. And that can make everything from functional prompts that you send out, alerts and things like that, more successful, to interactions with people in general. So that's regardless of whether you're creating a good, a service, an experience, and it's necessary for a transformation. So, you know, reflection is really, really, really important to meaning making, to everything else that happens.
Well, and I think too, the power of these mind altering substances is in that C to B continuum that we talk about in transformations, that people are seeking a new perspective, an expanded perspective, and travel is a great example of that. And since we've talked about it so much, a relevant one. It says, hey, show me a different view of the world so that I can behave differently, so that I can become different.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really the point here, right? Is get me out of my ordinary. And
Exactly.
artist date's another way to do that, to accomplish it. And just let me see differently so that then that can shift how I think, feel, behave. And then that will shift who I am at my core.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
So I don't think I've done this before, but maybe as toward the end of our conversation, let me get very prescriptive, right? So one, if you are in the experience staging business and have any and or the transformation business or want to get in the transformation business, then really take this encapsulation stuff seriously. That this is the technique, this is the thing that will able to take a memorable, a meaningful, and a transporting or even a transformative experience and make it a true transformation, capped off with that integration. So whatever business you're in, be thinking about how you do that, that your job is not done when they say it completely changed my life, right? That's the job's not done then. No, it's that you need to integrate it into their lives. And two, like othership, and like the integration therapists mentioned in this Wall Street Journal article, there are opportunities to just focus on that end of it, right? If any of you are coaches or in other ways getting working with customers in the midst of transformation, then think here about how you can integrate and that can be your primary value of what you create for your customers.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too. I'm meeting next week with a group of women that I took on a retreat, and we're going to. It was 6 months ago, and so now we're going to look at the vision boards that we created 6 months before, and say, what do these mean now? And what have I learned that I didn't know when I set this intention for myself? Not to say like, oh, I haven't accomplished all my goals, which I think is what we hear so often in well-meaning attempts at integration. They're sort of like nudgy and judgy. But I think for these to be effective, they are much more contextual. And so I just want to add that point to what you're saying, that when we help people integrate, it should be about learning and not outcomes. Learning what's working for you, what isn't, right? To keep them in that growth mindset.
Love it.
Well, Dave, I'm glad you brought this up for us this week.
You're welcome.
I will say, go read the comments on the Wall Street Journal article. They are not nice. They're so critical and so dismissive of this work. But I'm glad we're talking about it for its vast implications. And I think we got something really important here ultimately. All right. Thank you for the great conversation, guys. Listeners, thank you for tuning in with us. It's been so great to hear from more and more of you over on the Experienced Strategist Substack. Come join the conversation. We won't judge you if you're dismissive of the tech bros taking the ayahuasca, but we'd love to hear your thoughts.